Okay, cool. Great. Hi,
Hi,
Jonny.
everyone.
Hi, everyone. Okay, cool. So this is really fun. So Virginia and I are a ceramics school, and we opened this 10 days ago for members. We've sort of had to reduce our capacity and offerings in response to the pandemic, but we decided that we could open up our residency, and Jonny was is the first one to have joined us.
Oh.
He's also ours.
What's up?
Oh, hello. Yeah. So Jonny's a friend of ours. We first met a couple years ago when he came to Detroit and stayed with one of our neighbors, Jeff, and started working on this like incredible body of work that's primarily these glass fusings and cuttings, and basically we sort of became friends then, and at some point we sort of schemed this project where he was gonna come be a resident and finish sort of firing and fusing all of these objects. So Jonny sort of had a show specifically and a whole body of work that was sort of largely already made, that was going to sort of occupy a portion of this residency. But then there were other experimental things that were going to take place as well. And he's sort of filled up Virginia's personal studio for the time being.
I wasn't doing anything anyways, so it's good.
But we thought that, glass and ceramic would mix well because we're both using this kiln and firing it, but it turns out all of the little shards and things was more complicated than expected. But we've really sort of figured out all of these workarounds, and it's been this kind of incredible experience. And yeah, it's really just such a delight to kind of be at this moment where this sort of big project of ceramic school is finally sort of starting, albeit under these maybe less than ideal conditions. And we're just so thankful that Jonny has come and been here and been our friend and is going to share his work with us. And yeah, I guess we're going to learn all about you and what you're up to. So I just wanted to give a big sort of warm ceramic school welcome to Mr. Jonny Campolo.
And I think, so while Jonny's kind of talking, if you want to mute yourself just to make sure there's no background sound. And then if you want to, how do you put up your hand? Is that how you want to do the questions?
You can go either way. So you could type questions into the chat if you wanted as we were going, or I forget exactly how the hand raising works. I am not amazing at Zoom.
I think you can just, after the talk, you can ask questions.
Yeah, so just
Whenever
feel free to unmute and join in the conversation at the end. And I don't know if you feel so compelled to interrupt in the process too. Maybe that's important. We're going to take this pretty casually, I think. And yeah, so Jonny's work sort of ranges all over the place, from music to performance to this sort of glass fused work. Some of it is sort of installed in a more sort of functional way, these incredible light switch covers, and then others are taped to pieces of cardboard. And I'm really interested in hearing all about this whole spectrum of things that you've been working on. And yeah, we just love Jonny, so I'm so excited about this.
That's sweet, guys. Thank you for the intro. Very nice. Yeah, thanks to Henry and Henry Crispin and Virginia of Ceramic School for putting this together. I often think that art, especially art production, is dependent entirely on the people invested in other people. So they've been such a supporter for me, and they've hosted me for a week already, and I'm gonna stay here, I think, a little more till this work's done. And I'm very happy to be here. So thanks everybody for joining, and here we go. I'm gonna start with a little research. First off, this amazing scene from the popular movie Devil Wears Prada.
Where are the
series. It should work.
Where are the belts for this strap? Why is no one ready?
Here. It's a tough call. They're so different.
Something funny?
Oh. No, nothing's, it's just that both those belts look exactly the same to me. I'm still learning about this stuff and,
This stuff? Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually cerulean. And you're also blithely unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns. And then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it, who showed cerulean military jackets. I think we need a jacket here. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And then it filtered down through the department stores and then trickled on down into some tragic casual corner where you no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. However, that blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Yeah. So Meryl Streep is amazing in that movie. Stanley Tucci, wow, perfect duo in that movie. So what Meryl's hinting at is something that actually happens. Anyone who follows fashion, anyone who's into fashion understands how color trending works, or how the structure, especially corporate structure and big money companies, are using color to forecast what's about to be popular, maybe next season, the season after, years in the future. So what they're doing is color forecasting, and that is actually how it really happens. It's in small offices. It's usually a handful of people that are deciding what the world looks like in a very real way. So in 2008, I got a job at Warner Brothers in Burbank, California, on the lot. And I worked for an office then was called Consumer Products. And I worked for a woman who was a color forecaster. This was her job. So part of the job was basically, in that sense, at Warner Brothers, they were picking what jackets would be colored like, what lunch boxes would look like, what any iteration of any Warner Brothers character that you saw in the real world, all of those colors that are associated with that character, with that brand, are decisions, and they affect on a huge scale, in mass, what the world looks like in terms of its products and clothing and textiles and all of this. So what I was doing mainly at Warner Brothers was something that was really boring, which is matching PMS to TPX Pantone swatches. So if that makes absolutely no sense to you, this is what I mean. This is a Pantone card. You can buy them by the sheet, you can buy them per color, but essentially it's a color system that the world uses to track and manufacture color, to maintain color systems, to graft onto basically every single thing that's printed in the entire world. It's done through this universal system. So what I was doing was matching PMS to TPX, which is printed color to textile color. So let's say Tweety Bird, Tweety Bird yellow had to be on a t-shirt and a pillowcase, they have to be the same yellow. So that's what I was doing, making sure it was exact. And that job seriously opened a whole world to me. In terms of research, I was becoming really obsessed with color in general. And so for instance, this is what's called a style guide. So any any company would have its graphic designers make this for the future of the company, so that this is Hanes underwear. So Hanes Red is this exact Pantone Swatch 1788C. So anytime you see Hanes, that's going to be the red color. So this is underwear. This is the McDonald's color palette, I think, from the early 2000s that they went with in a season. And this is the exact colors on their menu. This like brown and blue down here is really, really nice. Oh. This is the corporate franchise PMS color swatch list. This is every PMS color and TPX color per team. So this is organized by team, which is really interesting. Those are screenshots, but what I'm really talking about are books. This is a very famous one by Paul Shaw, who designed the MTA graphics and all the colors. So these are branded colorways that you will never see different. You know, they're always using this color. And typically for the company, these graphic designers are making a book that is serving as a Bible, basically. So that became really, really kind of my whole world for a while. And I really, I really love the idea of like color serving as a context, like having meaning beyond just, you know, like what it looks like, you know, and especially not only color as a context, but color, looking at color as content, looking at color through its history or your understanding of these colors. Like McDonald's, for instance, easy example is that they use red and yellow to make you hungry. This is a psychological phenomenon. Everybody knows it. These colors make you hungry. And within seconds upon being, you know, surrounded by these colors, you become hungry, hungrier. So that's why they use them. It's very intentional, you know, and this is like, this is something that you feel in the everyday, you know, everywhere you are. People make most of their gut decisions based on the color that it is. It's something like, it's somewhere in the 90s, like 90% of the impulse decisions that we make are based on the color that it is. You know, like maybe you don't like the person because you hate their outfit, you know, like that's, that's just part of like human psychology. And I became fascinated with this, and I came into color as a theme. I came into glass with the idea of this color as content, or like physical, thinking about physical color. This is what Ken Price, and I want to talk about Ken Price because this is a ceramics, it is a ceramic school. So Ken Price is a really good one, and Ken Price talks about color being integral to the material. If you want to talk about like materiality, it's not just color on the surface. It's thinking about color as solid, as the material itself, so that the surface and the color appear inseparable. So he loves this idea. I really love this idea coming from Ken Price, looking at his work. And if you're unfamiliar with Ken Price, he's a fantastic colorist, you know. These are clay sculptures that he coats with paint, really, really solid, really flat. And then he goes back in and grinds away the surface color so that you get the flecks of color coming from beneath. And if you're unfamiliar, like Ken Price is just, you know, incredible colorist. These are some of his paintings alongside the ceramics. But yeah, what Ken Price calls material color, I think of, or like what, you know, it's kind of grafted from like constructivism and 20s and 30s Russia. That's a total art historical hole that I don't want to get into, but light and space movement called it complete color. The idea that color itself was the content of the work. Or something that Tony Ausler and Mike Kelly call stolen property, which is something that is so big to me. That's what I really love. I love the idea that color and especially colorways can be stolen. I wanted to talk about this analogy. If the material color thing doesn't make sense, which who cares? It's like a heady concept that, you don't really need to concern yourself with if you just are looking at art, but this is something that I really love and I hold like dear to what I'm trying to do. So if that makes no sense to you, the like integral color, flat color, complete color, I like the analogy of the carrot and the radish. So a carrot is completely orange, solid all the way through, but a radish is white in the middle with a red surface. So colored plastic is a carrot, painted wood, because it's, this comes from constructivism. Surface color is thought of as separate from the material itself. Like if you were to take a cross section of something, saw right through a piece of painted wood, obviously you'd see the surface color and the material color. So that's what I'm talking about. That's the differentiation I'm talking about. An apple is a radish, I think, because it's white on the inside. Cheese wrapped in wax, that's a funny one. I don't know the answer to that. I was thinking about clay as a carrot, but then clay with glaze, I think we'd have to talk about that. I don't really know. It's like a carrot with another carrot on top of it or something like
I mean,
that.
there's so many different ways to think about it.
Yeah,
there really is.
I think it's a radish.
Clay can be a canvas, or it can, be the actual material itself, right? You can use it either way.
Totally. So yeah, that's the idea. That's the general idea that I kind of associate like to the materiality of color, or like that's how I love thinking about it. But yeah, the idea of like stealing color everywhere in the world is something I love. The fact that like kind of the world is up for grabs in that way. You can steal anything you want. These are some color stories that I want to just flip through real quick. This is a door I saw in LA. This is my friend Keegan making a painting. Real up close. This is a cut of glass. Again, this is like a drawing on a sheet of glass that I was working on. That's me washing a piece of glass. This is like a really techy motor for tricking out your car. Speaking of that. This is a balloon sculpture that someone made of a Bible. I found this balloon company that makes like only Catholic themed balloon animals. The sound. Yeah. Oh, it's Alice in Wonderland. Here's some more. This is a ketchup that was made in the early 90s. I'm sure 90s kids remember that. Here's a car in Detroit, I believe. Here's a tricked out motorcycle. This is real. This is disgusting and real. Oreo's getting crazy. I don't know. This is a real smoke spot that a bunch of construction workers made by my house. I just thought it was fascinating. Like sometimes you look at construction sites and you're like, artists are out there, Here's me washing some glass in the yard. This is a piece from 2019 at night. It's the stop sign in the back. It's a glass stop sign. It was a scarecrow. My idea was that it was a scarecrow. Here's another cut. This is a vending machine I saw. So you can see in the folders, these are just examples of me just collecting color as I see it. It's really random and gonzo to me. I'm constantly making collections of things that I see and sorting them by the colors that they are. It's just kind of like how photography is involved in like what I'm doing. This is a guy I saw at the beach in Portugal. I loved his bathing suit. and with the mats. There's another cut. There's a drawing on top of a piece of fused glass that so I would cut that Sharpie line and then refire the piece so that it falls over. You can see on the edge of the piece of glass, it's rounded off. That's an example of the glass looking fused. The Michelin Man, Michelin tires. There's a drawing just with my phone on top of a piece of glass. I already cut this one out, but just, oh, I love this video. This is stuffed animal getting cleaned with a steam cleaner. This is just a wall on the street that I saw in New York. This is multicolor now. This is Jeff Tranchill's work. He's making these stained glass pieces and installing them in construction sites because the windows of those construction sites are mandatory for the construction sites to see through. So he's kind of beautifying the construction sites by putting stained glass over the mandatory cutout windows. It's a picture I found online. This is a grocery store by my house. They were closed. These are screws that I use to hang my work on the wall. I'm powder coating all these screws, which is blasting the screw and applying like a heat baked enamel to it so that it's not just spray painted on, the color is baked onto the screw so that it doesn't flake off at all. Like it's you know, it's on there. Some lighters. Oh, that's nice. Here's an oil spill right outside my house. Oh wait, sorry. Tire shop. This is all pink stuff. This is in a grocery store. This is Ruby, I think 2 Christmases ago. This is a vacuum cleaner that was a part of an installation outside of the Mike Kelly house by MoCAD in Detroit. I like, for instance, or I hate to like the fact that pink is branded in such a way that it means either women's or for the cure, you know, and they do that with everything. They do, if they can do it to a vacuum cleaner, you know, it's kind of abusive to me. That's weird. Here's another glass cut. Here's that painted egg I made on Easter. Bleeding heart plant in New Hampshire by my parents' house. Yeah, hippo eating a watermelon. And that's a drawing. Anyways, those are some color stories. I got some fun stuff too. I wanted to see some fun stuff. This is a sign that hangs in Walmart's dressing room. So the employees of Walmart have to follow this chart basically. And these are their options. So that's really hilarious to me. This is a seat in City Hall in New York where my girlfriend's brother got married. And this was a duct tape patch that they made in one of the pews. This is just this is funny. It's true. It's so true. This is also true. These are paint chips in a Home Depot. And I've always loved that this is a job for someone. And it's always been kind of a dream job to me, like naming the paint chip colors. Hot gossip, juicy details, kiss and tell, pinkadelic, intrigue, flirt alert, and stiletto love. Those names are just crazy. This is Rihanna, just outfit. This is an Adidas shoe by Raf Simon. And this is a fun, I just want to talk about a really random way that I really love finding color sometimes is with Google. It's something that happens, I think we can do it right now. Something that happens when you scroll too fast. I opened Peter Shire because I think it's just, he's gonna have great colors. Do you guys see that in the window? Hopefully you see I'm scrolling really, really quickly on the Google search, down, show more results. And you can see a flash of the colors there. So I usually take screenshots of those flashes. What those color blocks is Google sampling the image and picking the average pigment of the entire picture. So it's really fun to just get some random color blocks in there. And you can do this with anything, like watermelon, I bet you is gonna be all pink and, yeah, pinks and greens. So nice. Those colors are great. Yeah, something random. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I mean about like stealing color, or like just that kind of everything's up for grabs to me, or like you can take anything from anything. The most mundane picture, or like the most mundane screenshot, you can find something like really coolly inspiring from, you know? Some more, I wanted to share just some artists that I really like as well. And these are just great colorists to me. Because it's ceramic school again, I wanted to show you Zachary Leaner, who is he's like a contemporary sculptor. Has shown in LA, obviously. Look at the stuff, it's like so LA. But New York as well. I love his work. I mean, look at this, like, look at that. Really great texture, just really great colorist. And it's so like Nickelodeon to me, like pastel and, you know. Big key. He also does these really larger, these are larger. I like them on a, like in terms of ceramics, I love how raw they are, or fast. And you know they're not fast, they're made really meticulously, and you know, but I like how he retains a lot of quick moments, like tearing the clay, or like keeping a texture that would normally get like smoothed over by someone trying to be a little more formal, you know. Another great colorist to me is Ron Gorchov. If you're unfamiliar with Ron, he recently passed away last year. He's a really big kind of master New York artist who is also really focusing on the figure in an abstract way, which I kind of want to move into because my work is so figurative. But Ron what he's doing is abstracting the shapes between a person's arms and their body. So if you can think of a figure taking different poses, and the absence, like the negative space in between their limbs, is what he's drawing on the canvas. And these shapes are so, you know, they're so human. Once you look at them like that, they're really, really bodily, which is so cool. And he's just a fantastic colorist. These are some examples of his larger work. So you can see they get real big. And he's kind of like a pioneer of shaped painting, of like color field. He's been shaping paintings for so long. See how they come off the wall? They're like big concave. I think of them like boats, kind of. Big concave pieces. He's a fantastic colorist for sure. And another artist I want to talk about is Carl Worsom, who I just really love, both in terms of his color. He's someone to me that seemingly is like making artwork with like every color. You know, he has like a big bag of markers or something, or like, you know, every color is in this stuff sometimes. I like the idea of like multicolor as one color, but for Carl, he always talks about sort of building an exquisite corpse of ideas, and he's depicting the figure. So he focuses on like single aspects of the figure. So here, maybe I can find you guys a better one. These are really spacey. This one's great. So what I mean is like, yeah, this looks like kind of an exquisite corpse. What I mean is he'll constantly be drawing ears or eyes or faces or hands. And then in the way that you'd build an exquisite corpse, like those parts are seemingly disconnected, but when they're combined, they look really, really surreal and fragmented. I love that style. And that's how he builds his figures. And I do this in a very similar way, you know, especially with the glass. And because my work is so much about drawing, I can start going into the drawings. These are some of my drawings. Just quickly, I really love drawing hands all the time. And they are seemingly fragmented, but I always use those shapes and combine them into a bigger figurative piece, you know? So in the same way, I love the idea of building just a language of parts, or just focusing on parts, you know? Because what ends up happening is, as long as I like stay invested in building these parts, then the figures kind of come together, you know? As long as you stay invested in building parts, then the work kind of does itself in a way, you know? Then it's just about playing around with those parts. But my work always starts with drawing. I'm always drawing. And most of my drawings always will become these glass figures. So I really love investing in like cannibalizing in that way. Like a drawing, I love the idea of like a drawing never being wasted time, or like a wasted idea, you know, like you can always keep it around and it'll be something another day, you know? Yeah, I love just talking about the figure a little bit. I love, I'm a big people watcher. In New York, especially, I would ride the train a lot, or I used to ride the train a lot, and just like be really inspired by people's outfits. And oh, here's that drawing in a piece of glass. Maybe that's easier to get. Like this is literally a tracing of that drawing, you know? So the drawing became a piece of glass, like pretty verbatim, you know? Oh, here's a cool one. Yeah. So this woman I saw, you know, just on the street, and it's a really normal outfit, but I was just like, yes, her shoes are amazing, you know? I really love like seeing people on the street, and like, you know, when you see people on the street and you see an amazing outfit that they're wearing, and you're just like, it's creepy to like talk to them, but you just, in some way you want to be like, thank you, you know, like you are inspiring, like you're so inspiring. I get a lot of that in New York. It's so fun for me, you know, to just look at people's clothing. I get really inspired by clothing and the colors that people are wearing, you know, and it goes right into the studio. I bring it right in. Like I see someone wearing an amazing coat that's pink and they're wearing like high green socks with yellow shoes. I'm gonna make that drawing, and I guarantee it'll be a piece with those like exact things. I'm pretty like, I stick to what I see in that way, you know? But yeah, I love the idea, like when you're depicting a figure, like I like the idea that you're kind of, my friend Jordan Casey has this idea that we've talked about a few times. Here, let me see if I can. This kind of has it, what I'm talking about. A lot of my newer work is focused a lot more on the clothes, like taking each piece of glass and kind of treating it like a piece of clothing. And I really like the idea of when you're depicting the figure, my friend Jordan Casey talks about when you're talking about a picture of a person, you kind of become a clothing designer in that way, or like a fashion designer, because the figure, unless they're naked, obviously, like they need to be wearing something, like in a really practical way. So like, I really like that idea that when it's an image of a person, you have to figure out what they're wearing. And it seems so stupid, but like every person or every artist that's trying to depict the figure is like kind of a fashion designer in that way. I really love. I want to show you real quick some work that I made. Was that Petunia barking? We had so many dogs. Very cool. I want to show you some work that I made the past like 3 years, but this is work that's shown in group shows in New York. So again, this is fused glass, and it's hanging on powder-coated screws, the screws that I showed before. Here it is hanging with a Andy Cahill is a New York painter, and Josh Abelow is a New York painter. Here's the one from before. There's another one in that same show. This is with Greta Johnson, really fantastic painter from New York. One more. And finally, I wanted to talk about what I'm making at ceramic school, what I've been focusing on here. And this is just like my past week, but so this, what you're looking at is like cutoffs of my work. So the excess material, when I make a cut, would be like the positive. This is like the cutoff material from the saw. And I threw it all together in like a panel, basically, and we cooked it once in the kiln. And it's going to get cut up into basically many pieces. This is an example of like what I'm calling confetti glass, which is like over the years I've had like a lot of different smaller pieces of glass, like so many little pieces. So I had the idea of throwing them onto a single sheet so we could make some like really custom glass. Here's another one. And then I'm going to go back and draw over it. So just kind of like totally forgetting the design of like what's there and kind of treating it as arbitrary and just making a really quick drawing over the glass that I'll recut and refire so that it all like rounds off. Here's an example of doing what I was just describing. So like I fired it once with the black, red, yellow, green, and purple pieces, made a drawing on top of it, and then I fired it again so that the first firing ends up looking like a pattern over the drawing. Here's our first kiln load. This was like a few days ago, like a top down in the kiln. So you can see that the work fires on firing paper. That makes it like super flat. And you know, I consider the work, like I hang the work like a painting on the wall, you know, and they're flat. They're like only a 1/4 inch thick. So that's what I meant by hanging them on powder coated screws. So for instance, this one, it's like they stand off the wall in this way that so that when light passes through the glass, they cast this colored shadow. That's on a pink wall, so it's kind of hard to see, but in the future, I'll have way better pictures. So, yeah, and then I want to get into these what I'm calling turn-ons, which is a genre of work that I'm making with my friend Jeff Tranchel, which they're sculptures made for the wall, but they're kind of like they're retrofitted to the light switch. So I usually hang them over the light switch, or even use like the screws in the light switch, like this, to put the glass right over the light switch. So what I'm doing is, this is a really good example of a cutoff too. You know, it's like an excess piece of glass that I just made real quick into a turn on. So in that way, like I get to save the material. I'm never wasting material, which is really nice. Plus you can bake this stuff over and over and over again. And it's a really cool secondary thing to do with my offcuts, which I have a lot of, you know? So there's like, it's nice to do something with like with the secondary material that comes from making the primary work that I'm focusing on. So I'm gonna take these kind of panel pieces made up out of my cutoffs. I'm gonna make drawings over them. And already in the kiln right now at ceramic school, we're making the second batch of these turn-ons, which is really gonna be really fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. I think we're gonna pop it open this afternoon, right, Henry?
It is cool. The kiln is cool. We
Yeah.
Whole like huge load of your work to
Yeah.
right now. It's super exciting.
And what Henry was talking about before is a lot of the figurative work that I'm firing in Detroit right now is going to be a part of a show at Jeff, which is a new gallery in Detroit. It'll be later this year, like late summer or fall, we're hoping for, but you know, pending COVID, pending everything. But I'm really, really like thankful for the opportunity to fire my work, because I don't own my own kiln, you know, and part of it is like, part of art fabrication is like, you're only so good as what you're, you know, you can access kind of. And that's why to me, art is so much about people. It's so much about the access and the friends that you have. And I'm so indebted to Henry and Virginia and Jeff too, for instigating all of this work, for inviting me to come out, especially, you know, during this crazy time. And yeah, I really appreciate it. So thank you guys.
Johnny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, hopefully that wasn't too fast and a breeze through. I wanted to breeze through a lot of stuff just to get to the Q&A, but.
It's great. I'm really glad to learn about the things that inspire you. I love the little books of images on your computer. That's so great.
Oh yeah, that's something that's, I don't know. I like the computer, you know, I use the computer a lot, and I use like my phone a lot. And I for a while I was like, there's no reason to ignore those tools, you know? Like I consider like the internet as like one of the most inspiring, crazy places we can go, you know? Like the crazy stuff that I find usually folds into the work in some way, you know? But those color stories that I was showing you, like that's something that I'm always doing, like obsessively, for better or for worse.
Something I really love about you and your work is that it kind of takes the shape of whatever environment you have. Like, let's say you don't have the facilities to fire your work in a kiln or something. Like maybe you're just going to focus on some performances or something, and you just are such a prolific person, and you're always finding different ways to make, whether that's music or art performance or physical objects. And I love the way that it all just fits into your life however it can in the moment. You're always making, which is so great.
That's sweet. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm a big believer in like designing your life, you know, but also I love making things that have different contexts. I really look at it as different projects. I think my friend Chase is still on. Yeah, I see you. Hey, baby. My friend Chase and I do these performances that just have their own context, and it's not that they're completely separate from my art practice or like my sculpture or anything. Obviously, they're like completely folded into everything, but I like projects having their own specific context, and that context, like me and Chase only pretty much do it when we're asked to, like I'm not trying to like self-produce certain I'm not I think DIY, and don't take this the wrong way, but DIY would have you convinced that you need to do everything yourself, or you need to do every step of everything yourself. And I don't believe that that's necessary. Like, I really like the idea of doing things for people, and that the art world consists of people. And when they want something, hell yeah, like I'll do it for you,
I love that, Johnny. I guess I'm one of the glass fusing is so interesting to me because I feel like it makes so much sense in relationship to the kind of like sort of capturing like an image, or thinking about color as a material. Like glass is this like color, glass is this solid representation of that color.
Totally.
There's this I think one of the things that's really hard to understand about these is the slowness. So like the actual, like they're these very quick gestures that emerge out of these drawings for you, but they're cut on this little rotary diamond saw that Johnny just sits at, cutting this line through this glass for like
So slow.
hours and hours and hours and hours on end, which I think is like totally hilarious and absurd. And
Yes. Art production is absurd. It's absurd.
and there's
yeah.
a kind of, and then there's this incredible fragility to them. And then I love the idea that the light casts through this. So it's like projecting the color onto the environment. So like there is this sort of engagement with its context that you can't quite, you can't do anything about. You can't avoid it. You're like, here's this piece on pink. And so it's hard to perceive it in that way. But also like when it's in front of a light switch where, that cover has been removed and you're seeing into this sort of the actual like structure of the architecture, and how it sort of brings attention to that in a way. But and I think that is like especially I think that you show that you're thinking about those things in the way that you like label them. So I was looking on your website, and like, it's not just here's the title of this piece, it's like where it is. It's like, oh, it's in this person's studio or in this person's collection. And I think that like reinforces this thing where you're saying like, you're interested in the people and the places, and sort of like bringing the kind of noticing. It's encouraging the kind of noticing that you're doing when you are gathering your inspiration that is causing this. So it's not just you manifesting your inspiration, it's you making an object that encourages someone else to like think and see in the way that you do, which I think is it's very generous and sort of participatory in that way. And yeah, it's exciting.
That's sweet. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, that was sweet. Yeah.
It's also, I just wanted to say really quick, the light switches are so funny because you think of a light switch as being like such kind of like a utilitarian heavy use object, and it's so funny to have it made out of glass, which is something that's so fragile and
Yeah.
and like special. And Johnny gave us one of these light switch covers when we met last year, and I couldn't believe that I was, yeah, that's our light switch cover. And I was like, really? Like, we're supposed to put this there? Like, it's gonna break, because you think it's being really utilitarian, but it's not actually somewhere that you bump or anything. So you just have to be aware around it.
Well, it causes you to act differently around this thing, and typically it's something that covers up. And so instead to turn that into something that brings attention to is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks. I kind of think of them as like made you look, kind of like a little, it's not like primarily like a piece that you'd put on the wall, and they're really small because the light switch is really small. But the idea was like, it's a universal dimension. It's a universal, or like you said, it's like utilitarian. It's completely universal. So the dimension there is like something that's really fun. It's also the idea of like collecting something that's small and practical was really interesting to me. Like everyone has a light switch in their home, like you can, that means it's space or something, but I really do think of them as just like a silly way to like make something so utilitarian and boring, like have something interesting, or like for the most part to me, because of the like theme, obviously, I've been giving them as like gifts to people, to friends who are like new homeowners, or some wedding gifts I've given them as, or like you said, people's studios. Like I have some friends with them as the light switch in their art studio is my piece. So that's really nice to me. Like the on switch to their studio is somehow charged in this way. Like as soon as you get there, you're hitting the switch. It's there. Yeah. It's like turning on something that was off.
It's I mean, I very much relate to that idea as like someone with a background in making pottery, and my interest in pottery is like, oh yeah, here's like a small object that someone knows, and it's like also an opportunity for like a creative intervention because of that, like because it's so ubiquitous and because it's so accessible or small,
like
or
a blank space,
what have you. But then the idea of thinking of something like a light switch, which or sorry, a light switch cover, like you go like, oh, well, what are all of the other things in your life that could be like turned or flipped around in this way?
Yeah, right.
Cup makes you think that way necessarily, but a strange light switch cover, I think for me, just opens up this whole sort of different way of thinking about the world, which is so funny. It's so simple. We had a question. We have a couple questions.
There's
though.
a few questions in the chat from people that I can read. Someone asked if you have any snippet of a recording of a performance that you've done.
My mom,
actually. My mom asked if you wanted to share something like that.
Is that something you could share? Or?
I mean, I'd rather share something more ridiculous. The thing about a recording of a performance, and this is deep, we could have this conversation another time or something. It's like, could be really long, but nobody likes watching a video of a band playing on stage. It's like so lame. Instead of showing you a video of one of my performances, I'll show you something that was made for the screen. How about?
Sounds good.
So, like I said, me and my friend Chase Segley, really just such a super talent in my life and such a great collaborator. We kind of started playing music together really before we knew each other, and certainly before we started talking about music to each other. We were already playing music, which is just the coolest. Something that I really hold dear about our relationship. But anyways, so this is a video that we did for Freddie Gallery, which is my friend Joshua Abelo's gallery in upstate New York. So it was kind of a piece made for Freddie, but hosted on this website called Gondola Wish, which is just an incredible website that, especially during quarantine, they're doing all of these internet only projects, and they're sponsored by, you can see in the lower corner, like those are the galleries that are a part of it. So kind of like a really big group of galleries that are doing online only projects. So this is presented by Freddie, but on Gondola Wish. Here we go.
Why do birds suddenly appear every time I am near? Just like me, they long to be close to me. Why do stars fall down from the sky every time I walk by? Just like me, they long to be close to me. On the day that I was born, the angels got together and decided to create a dream come true. So they sprinkled moon dust in my hair, golden starlight in my eyes of blue. That is why all the girls in town follow me around. Just like me, they long to be close to me. On the day that I was born, the angels got together and decided to create a dream come true. So they sprinkle moon dust in my hair, golden starlight in my eyes of blue. That is why all the boys in town follow me around. Just like me, they long to be close to me. Oh, close to me. Close to
Yeah,
Is that you singing, Johnny?
yeah, it is. And so me and Chase made that entirely remotely. after they like commissioned it for us, and that was very much a quarantine project because it's that Carpenter song, but we replaced "Close to You" with "Close to Me." The theme is obvious there, but it was made for quarantine, and we actually did make it entirely remotely. Chase did all the instrumentation. I think I did the like Casio beat there, and Chase did all the instrumentation, and I sang. Yeah.
And what about the animation?
That was made on Fiverr, which is if you guys haven't used Fiverr, like I had such a good experience with Fiverr. The
Wow.
animator lives in Sri Lanka.
Wow. And that was $5 to animate?
No.
So, okay, so there's a couple more questions.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Asked, how do you hope your passion of color translates to viewers who are colorblind?
Whoa, crazy question. That's
More about
funny.
form in that case.
Wow. I mean, from what I understand of color blindness, it's usually between two colors, which is a pretty interesting thing. Like it's either confusing red and green or like blue and yellow, or that is a crazy thing that would be a cool thing to research. But I'm pretty sure that like nobody's walking around seeing like a dog like completely grayscale or anything. That's not what happens, right? Like
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't think that's what happens. But
Wait, Aaron maybe has something to say there about that.
Some people,
yeah.
but like my father, he sees red and green differently. You know, it's not the same in everyone's context. So, you know, what you think we see isn't necessarily the same. So how would you feel you want, you know, those emotions transmitted through form maybe instead of just visual color?
Yeah, totally. That's cool. I think like a lot of it is arbitrary too. I think in your everyday conversation, if you were like, "Oh, I love that pink sweater," and someone was like, "It's purple. What's wrong with you?" You know, like people have really loose connections to like what colors are or what they mean. So I think like that what you're describing like happens anyways. But I would hope that if someone, for instance, was like not able to see the color in my work and I'm talking about color, at least they can understand it in this like peripheral way, in that it's everywhere. Like it's, you know, and that could be anything. To a blind person, color is texture, you know, or like to a deaf person, like vibration is sound, you know, like there's so much like peripheral sensory stuff in how I like kind of like graft from the world or like steal from the world. But yeah, I don't know. That's a cool one. You might inspire me to like research some color blindness.
I
That's
liked the way you described the abuse of the color pink in the vacuum cleaner for
Totally.
breast cancer and like female attributes. Like that was just spot on. The abuse of color. I love that.
Yeah, that sounds like an essay or something, right?
Yeah.
No, I totally in that color has context and you understand things that are
Yeah.
oh, this is a ridiculous example, man. Check this out. If this doesn't piss you off, like this was in Walmart, I think I took this picture, but like, what are we doing here? You know, like I was in CVS the other day and I saw earplugs that you'd sleep with, and they were pink and it said for women. Like as if the product is any different. That's just like one example. Pink is obviously it's really loaded and people love you know, the stupidest example I can think of is like babies' clothes are pink or blue, you know, and people that are aware of that are now painting the nursery yellow, or they're painting the nursery green. But like, this is a very good example of people understanding that that color has like a very strong connotation, you know?
Embarrassingly, I don't know where it came from, but my hammer is pink.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
My little girl hammer. It's so stupid.
yeah, totally.
I don't know where it came from, but
Yeah, that's funny.
I might have gotten it at like a garage sale and been like, I like this pink hammer. It's pink.
Were there any other questions? I think
there was
the hand raise.
Oh, is there a hand raise? Amanda
well, you don't know. It just says A.
or A?
Andrew Savage has a question.
Yeah, John, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
You were talking about a friend of yours, a Los Angeles artist that you pointed out as being, very evidently Los Angeles by his use of color.
Yeah.
You and me had talked about this before. I'm curious, what do you think are the attributes of a New York colorist?
Nice. Oh, great question. Well, now you're talking downtown and uptown, baby. I think of really classic New York. And by classic, I think I mean 70s and 80s, like when there was such a line between uptown and downtown. Uptown was completely devoid of color, completely sucked out, completely desatch everything, formalism with a capital F. Everything is white, gray, beige, and I'm not saying those are bad choices. I'm saying like it was indicative of that area and like what that meant, I think, for the class of people that lived uptown and downtown. But downtown to me is like, man, like Stuart Hitch is a huge downtown artist that I love. Here's a Stuart Hitch. Stuart Hitch was like 80s downtown artist. And what I would say is that the colorists I love from downtown New York are like doing things that appear fast and loose. It's like fastness and looseness favored over formalism, tightness, exact, there's so many differences, but like, especially for this period that I'm thinking of, like any painter that was like using pigment, not arbitrarily, but using pigment as like a loose tool in art making is very New York to me, is very downtown. Is that, I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, man, out of sight. And thanks Ceramic School for putting this together. This is a hoot.
Thanks, man. Yeah, what a treat.
Wait, so when you were saying like there's a looseness to it, at first I thought you were gonna say like that there's a content to it, like that the color like carried something specifically, and then there was like a looseness to it. And is that like is it frivolous, or is it like gestural? Is it like is it like emotional, like heavy-handed, or
Yeah, I think you can call it all those things. I think you can call, I don't know, gestural to me just means like there's evidence of the mark, or like there's evidence of the making, and that's a part of what they're doing or like what they're talking about. But to me, it's more like you can make a drawing with a pencil, or you can make a drawing with 5 different colors. The drawing with 5 different colors is going to appear looser. It's going to appear having less rules. You know what I mean? Visually.
We had one of our professors in graduate school, John Gill. Whenever a student would ask him about color, his response was, all colors go together. Some just have to work harder.
That's funny. Yeah, I like that.
And he really had this way, or has this way of like letting color be what it is and believing that it fits. And I feel that way is almost the same thing with an outfit where you're like, I'm inspired by people's fashion. And, as much as as much as there might be like a bold decision at play, it almost has more to do in just believing the decision is good than like it really being good. It's like you could like put on a trash bag and like, I don't know, insert random object here. And, if it was like, if you had the right sort of like juju with it, it's
Attitude.
like it could really kind of, it could work. And it's funny though with an artwork because like the artwork sort of has to have its own presence in that way. It's like, if you could cut up the trash bag and add the thing and put it into the place. Maybe the place has to do some of the work there. I don't really know what tangent I'm going on, but I was thinking about your like these layered sort of more confetti pieces that you're making right now.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about the glass and kind of because it's so solid there and hard and difficult to like cut in a specific way. There are these like real material limitations and like in terms of what is possible. Like, so even within our kiln, like you have this special program and you made these giant pieces and you're like, yeah, like inevitably it's going to break just due to the limitation of the material, or you can only stack it so thick before you have to like change the program and like rethink the whole method entirely. And
Totally.
and so you're doing this like cannibalism, you were saying, where you're like taking one piece that breaks or cutting it into another one or stacking things on top of each other. But then there are kind of like, there are limitations to that are like, material limitations that I think are really compelling in terms of like almost like the body. Like it's with fashion, there's a kind of like limitation of like the weight that you can carry or the size of your body or the like shoes that you can find or what. And like, so you were talking about color too. You have all these different colors. And you said there was this one, you were telling me the other night, there's this person that you buy glass from where you fire your glass.
Yeah.
And like you just bought the colors that they had. And so that became a kind of constraint that also gave you a kind of connection. There was like, if you went on the internet, you could buy absolutely anything. But if you're sort of constrained to this one location, maybe
Going to
that
a thrift store.
yeah, it's like if you have such a knowledge of colors and all of the possibility of it, how do you ever pick one? Do you know, like when you buy that beige, that it's going to be a hand or like?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I really like kind of following the drawing. If I'm making a drawing, I'm going to follow it verbatim. And that is not, it's not, I don't mean it in a purist way. I mean it in like the simplest, what's the simplest way to make this, And I think what you're talking about, the idea of getting hung up on the choice, is something that I think you need to get out of the way right away. Like it's not an option to get like hung up on like choosing. I don't read into the colors that far. Although I enjoy it, I enjoy that context. Well, I think you always are making things with what you have access to or playing to the room in that way. Like the glass that I can buy or the glass that I can afford at this one place, the glass that this seller has, that's what my work's going to be colored in, like, and that to me is like, it's cool. The material limitation you're talking about is like really necessary to make things at all. I think people on this call that have material in their studio that they haven't touched in years know exactly what I'm talking about. Like make something out of it. Don't let it sit around or it's going to get really, it'll flip in your mind, you know?
We were even talking about like how something can flip in your mind, and that like the idea of maybe something being cultured over time or through experience, how it sort of like accumulates maybe a meaning or value for yourself. And
Totally. I
there's
think you need to live with things. Like for instance, you're talking about cannibalizing. I have work that I've cut into 3 years later, 4 years later. And you know, something that I fired and I loved in the moment, but it's not going to work out for the piece I had in mind. So maybe it becomes the pants from the pant shape for this other figure, you know, like that's just how it goes. And I think you were talking about material, or you were kind of touching on like material preciousness. And I think working with a fragile material like glass taught me very, very early on to kill that preciousness. Like it will break. Like this is on the screen right now. This is a break, you know, on the fingers here. That's a horizontal break. That's an accident. But when it fires, it'll be slightly relief. It'll be like a tiny relief there, like a little more dimension. So the breakage, I never care about. It kind of just gets folded in. But like what you were talking about before with just like material preciousness, I try to destroy that feeling in every sense all the time. Like if you're not throwing the materials that you have around like recklessly, you're not having enough fun, man. Like I don't know, you're not. I'm very reckless with the stuff, you know.
I think that when you feel too much preciousness in a material, it really slows you down and paralyzes you in practice, because you know you're like, oh, like I have this, I need to make something really good out of it. Like you know, it can like really keep you from just making things. Yeah, it's really good. That.
Yeah.
So Johnny, you're saying that reminded me of the work that you did for the Big Orange show.
I can show you some of that work. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'd love to see that. So this is at I want to say gazebo, a calendar gazebo.
Yeah, the gallery is called Calendar. Calendar is a project by my friend Jonathan Hartshorn. He lives in Albuquerque, and it's kind of like a roving. It's the gallery itself can be anywhere. It's funded by the Contemporary Art Museum in Albuquerque, which is really cool. And he had this idea to kind of fly the work out there. You know, I couldn't go. It was this past summer, but I made this work in New York and had this like kind of fleeting idea that we can just ship it out there, and it worked out, which was really great. But all of this work is the kind of fused glass that I was talking about before, in that it's older, maybe it's offcuts, it's made with disparate parts that are pushed together, and then I kind of have like this growing fondness for cardboard just because it's a material in like my day-to-day life. Like when I'm making in the studio, I'm making cardboard boxes like all the time for the work. When I take them back from firing, it's always arrives on cardboard, you know? And to me, this was like a really cool, because the show is so temporary. It was a really temporary time. So this was a way to kind of like cement this temporary look for this stuff, which was really fun for me. It was like, again, you were talking about time and like how time relates to like production. And I made this work really quickly. Like the speed of it was really important to me. And like my drawings are always really fast. It's the difference in speed is like really important to me, or like how that relates to time. Like, you know, when you're looking at a master painting, sometimes you're looking at like 300 hours of work, you know, and you can consume it in like a matter of seconds. You know, it doesn't matter. You can decide that the masterwork is boring in a matter of seconds, and they might have spent 350 hours on it. You know, like that to me, that aspect of art making is like very, very inherent to the process. Like, so to me, this like this work that appears very fast or like stuck on in a way, or like it looks temporary, is that's why I wanted to run with the tape and cardboard.
But you also ship the works by taping them to cardboard, right? So this is sort of like almost something that happened anyways, and then like, was there a moment where you realized that like, oh, the taping is of interest? And is there anything about the materiality of like the like kind of permanence and solidity of glass and the like temporary nature of the tape that are kind of in dialogue there? Or
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too like, to me, it's like an association. It's an associative thing. It's the glass, like, to me, glass in general has like a really liquid quality. It appears wet, and also glossy. A lot of people think it's like, a ton of people always think they're looking at resin or paint under resin. They don't know really what they're looking at. That elusive quality to me is like really cool. That's interesting. But for this work in particular, like the liquid quality to the glass, or like the really refined quality of the glass, is really nice over something so low quality. It's like a high low, you know? And that's interesting to me. It's like using it's like lo-fi music, you know, like something with a high low, something that appears to contradict itself, and its materiality is like funny. That's funny to me. You know.
sure, there were a couple more things really quick. Jan said, seems like the size of the work would also make it easier to store between making and selling, which would be nice. Also, it harkens to the arts and crafts William Morris sensibility of beauty objects we use in the everyday. Had you considered that? Do you think about those things?
Like with the light switch covers.
Is this what they mean by William Morris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
William Morris was sort of began as like the arts and crafts movement in response to the Industrial Revolution was like a realization of the value of the hand and of the worker in this, and that, you know, if you like make a machine that does it, yeah, you can reduce its price, but like,
Yeah.
there's actually value inherent in the activity of the hand. And then I think that essentially what that meant was he sort of continued with this, specifically textile manufacturing, at this sort of high craft, high cost level, and really slowly developed into him kind of leaving that behind and starting a socialist newspaper, which I think is a really amazing development.
So I have a couple years before that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But it really was this like critical, what I really appreciate about his work is that it was like the idea first and foremost, and like, can you hold on to it and manifest the thing that you want with what you have, or do you just have to change? And it's like he had to change. It was like it needed to be a socialist newspaper and not
Tapestries.
a
Right.
tapestry manufacturer.
So knowing this, can you ask that question one more time?
I think that they were asking about the light switch covers and utilitarian, like finding beauty in everyday objects.
That's what I was thinking as well. I think that's really important. The arts and crafts thing, I mean, obviously there's an intersection of craft and art. This is something that is like really kind of played out idea to me. I don't know. It's like something you can talk about that forever. Like it's clear that I'm inspired by craft or the appearance of something being handmade. I think what's interesting in the firing process is that I think maybe the arts and crafts movement stressed the evidence of the hand, or like the evidence of the mark, like the maker's mark was like a really big thing that came out of arts and crafts. Like you have artists that have insignias, the importance of the signature, like on the front of the painting, you know, like this is like, you know, the authorship came out of it, right? That's what you were talking about. Or like how formal that is to say it was made by one person. But to me, what's interesting about the firing the glass is that most of my marks disappear, and that it is refined in that way. Like a lot of the like messy stuff that I do in the making completely disappears, and it offers kind of the opportunity for me to like finish it, you know, like put the finishing move on it is the firing. It's when it's refined to me. Maybe it's the moment that it leaves craft to me and enters something a little more magical or chemical or something like that.
Sure, when that cut edge kind of disappears, it becomes like,
yeah, the mark disappears. And I really like stained glass for that way, that it retains the mark. Here, let me show you this. This is just one. I have an entire series of these that I didn't even really show you guys, but this is a stained glass nightlight. Small, figurative still, but really, to me, the difference is that you see the mark, you know, you see the leading, and you see it worked over, you know. That's a big difference between the appearance of something being handmade and the appearance of something being very refined, you know. And that's like that's just taste to me. I don't know, that's personal taste. But what were you saying, like about the light switches, like the utility? I'm sorry, we just went on like a rant and I didn't answer the question, maybe.
I don't know how. I guess it's sort of like, I think it was a question about your philosophy regarding the sort of pertinence in working in utilitarian forms. Like what is it that's interesting about making a light switch as opposed to a piece that hangs on the wall? But of course you do both, right?
Yeah, gotcha. I like kind of what you were speaking to before. I really love the idea of like dissemination and how this piece can be a part of someone's home and how they feel about their home, you know, like that's something completely uncontrollable to me, you know. Part of having work on an empty wall is that it's sort of interchangeable, right? You can put any painting on any wall, but this work is made like kind of specifically for the utility, like what you're talking about. I think is it's made specifically for a space that is not, I don't want to say like interactive, because like I don't really care about that, but when you're looking at the switch, you're touching it. That's very different. You know, it's like lived in. It's not just looked at. You know what I mean?
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to ask Jonny or share thoughts?
Crickets.
There was
It was mostly in the chat.
there was one
No,
more.
yeah, that's cool. We're pushing an hour and a half now, so this has been really great.
We can call it done in just a moment. I just wanted to make sure. So Sharon said you might like this and left a link, and it says the PBR guide to Wes McDermott from Algorithmic. The texture, color, and light info is dense, but I learned so much from it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
there's so much scientific writing about color and like phenomenology and like all of this. It's really interesting. You know, I'm not quite a science mind when it comes to that. Like, I do think it's fascinating, like what is happening in your eyes when you're looking at color and what's happening with light. But Yeah, send me the link. I would love to look at it.
On the chat.
Into chat. Well, hey, okay, this has been just so lovely.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, we have resident artists who are going to be coming all the time now, I guess. So after Johnny leaves, the
We're still
next
figuring them
person
all
comes
out.
in. We're still scheduling all of it and trying to figure out how to make it work and do it safely and all of that. And but hopefully every few weeks or month or so we'll do another one of these. So Johnny, thank you so much for being the first and showing your brilliant work. And let's go unload your kiln.
Yeah, we're gonna go unload the kiln. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks to Henry and Virginia as well. I hope you enjoyed our little internet adventure.
Thank you. It was great.
Sweet. Yeah, maybe next time we can do it in a big hall, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, I did have one other thought, and maybe this is something we can continue later, but think about how your cutoffs actually related to Hamilton's work, which he has this whole series where basically these paintings emerged from a palette that was used to make a painting. And now the paintings are like of these palettes, and it's sort of like a self-generating process. And it made me think of these cutoffs and how these cutoffs from the work then became something which generated a new thing. And I wonder, like, maybe the intentional cut becomes the negative, which produces something entirely different in the future, or something maybe it's really
Yeah, totally. I like that idea a lot. Totally tangential, but I had this idea because of an excess in smaller pieces. But what you're talking about, I totally relate to. Like this sheet, like confetti glass, is my palette. You know, it is my painting palette. It's all the colors that I'm currently working with, pretty much. It's funny you brought that up. I had that idea yesterday.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but like, just like you said, like I'm constantly collecting the things that, like, this kind of material, and the more you collect, like, kind of it all folds in. Like maybe everything, or maybe the next series is going to be completely multicolor. I think I'm going there, but you know, it depends.
One last tiny question. Do you know if Hanes still makes the green ketchup?
They don't, no. But I'm pretty sure on eBay, you can find those kind of products, but they're like way too expensive and not edible.
Oh,
I
got
saw
it.
that this, I don't know if it was real or not, but I was told it was that Kraft Mac and Cheese is releasing a pink mac and cheese for Valentine's Day.
Oh God.
Made me think of you.
Let's get it.
Yeah, well, I'll probably buy one for posterity. I've been looking at these things as I buy them. They're all in my studio, honestly, in New York. Like I buy those funny products all the time. I look at them as kind of like artifacts of right now, because nobody really, I don't know, like maybe someday they're gonna look at it and be like, whoa, what were we thinking there with the scrub mommy? Like what? That was a mistake. But maybe they'll take them all off the shelves someday because it's inappropriate and it's sexist. But until then,
Rub on, mommy.
It's an example that that color matters, or that color talks pretty loud, you know?
Color talks. Okay, well, thanks for all the color talks, Johnny.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great residency.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, what I did.